Let's answer some questions for the final PFT OT for the return of PFT Live. All right. So, hey, sorry, PFT PM Posse, you come up with a lot of questions every day. I want to give some time here to some others. Let's see. Here's a quick one, though. I'll answer this one from PFT PM Posse. Is there any way outside of replacing the draft for the NFL to fix issues like Jordan Love's career being ruined because the Packers basically used him as a pawn in the Aaron Rodgers drama? Seems wrong to screw a guy's career like this. No, there's no way to fix it. Unless you take away the draft or unless Jordan Love is willing to say, I refuse to come play for the Packers. I refuse to step into this stew of dysfunction. I refuse to be the guy caught between Aaron Rodgers and the front office. And Love's represented by the same firm. So they could have clued him into the idea that it isn't going to end well, Jordan. But we didn't know how it was going to end between Rodgers and the Packers. We didn't know that Rodgers was going to win 2 straight MVPs. We didn't know he was going to choose not to try to force his way out of town. But now, yeah, Jordan Love's stuck. He's got 2 years left on his rookie contract, and I think he just has to wait it out. He's got nothing else he can do. So to answer the question, there are plenty of ways. The concept of a draft, it tells a player, you are coming to work for this team and nobody else. Unless you're going to sit out the full year and re-enter the draft, you have no choices. That's why I always say, guys, at the end of the process, round 6, round 7, it's better to not be drafted. Because you could get drafted by a team that maybe has too many guys at the position you play, maybe doesn't have a good assistant coach who's able to teach you how to be a professional at the position you play. Maybe there's a better place for you to go that a good agent will help you decide upon and settle upon and focus on and sign with, and then maybe you have a better chance of making the roster. So it's always better to choose where you work, where you live, who you work with. It's always better to have that choice. And a theme that's come up on a couple of the radio spots I do this week, quarterbacks who end up in bad spots. And it's usually top of the draft, not bottom of round 1. But either way, whether it's Jordan Love or whether it's Achilles Smith going to the Bengals in 1999, one of the things that fascinates me, an alternate universe out there where the Eagles have Achilles Smith in 1999, and the Bengals have Donovan McNabb. Would Achilles Smith become the 10-year quarterback of the Eagles working with Andy Reid? Would Donovan McNabb have washed out of the league in a year or two working with the Bengals? It's a huge factor, but the player has no control over it. And again, and this is why Sims and I argue about it. It's an honor and a privilege. That's all part of the effort to brainwash the player into not becoming aware of the fact that you're walking into a situation where, depending upon who drafts you, depending upon where you start your career, you may never even have a career. And look, I think at some level, Josh Rosen's failure to thrive in the NFL is the product of his lack of ability. But it's possible he's just been in one bad circumstance after another. It's possible. He did get drafted 22 spots ahead of Lamar Jackson. And it's not like people say, well, that's crazy. What the hell are the Cardinals thinking? Why didn't they take Lamar Jackson? So, bottom line, it's why that I think that all players should have the right to pick where they start their career with a salary cap for rookies that is driven by how the team did the last year. That's how you build some competitive balance into it. And this strange argument that all the great players will go to the same team. They're really going to go to the same team and sit behind the bench. Great quarterback going to go to the Chiefs and sit behind Patrick Mahomes. Great quarterback going to go to Dallas and sit behind Dak Prescott. No, they're going to go to where they think they're going to be developed properly and where they're going to play and where their career is going to get off on the right foot so they can play for 15, 20 years and make a crap load of money. All right, what else do we have? Burn unit. You've said the 49ers may not be sold on Trey Lance. Do you believe that is still the case with them trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo? Would they be trading Jimmy if they truly did not think Lance is ready to take over? I think it's possible that they may not be sold on Trey Lance, but they understand that we just have to do it. We just have to rip off the Band-Aid and go. And that's what they apparently intend to do. Now, from time to time, they'll throw out this goofy idea that they'll keep Jimmy Garoppolo around at $25 million. If they pay Jimmy Garoppolo $25 million to be the backup to Trey Lance, they really have lost their damn minds. More than when they didn't evaluate Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 draft, or said no to Tom Brady in 2020, or freaked out and ultimately invested 3 first-round picks plus in Trey Lance, if they pay Jimmy Garoppolo $25 million just to preserve the ability to maybe trade him to a team that loses a starter before the deadline, they really have lost their minds. So at some point, you just have to accept the fact Trey Lance is our guy. Let's support him. Let's not have Jimmy Garoppolo around. Let's go all in with Trey Lance. Let's make him the best quarterback he can be. And let's see if we got it right. Let's see. We'll find out. There's only one way to find out. You got to go all in. If you're going to go all in, you got to go all in. I don't know if there's anything really profound in that, but they've already made the move. Now's the time to show the cards, or at least find out what the cards show. It's not just showing the cards. They got to look at the cards. They went all in without knowing what their cards are. Now's the time to lay the cards down so everyone, including the 49ers, will know what the cards really are. Let's see what else we have here. Ooh, Tommy Caruso. Oh, this is one that can get me in trouble based upon what I say. After surviving a seemingly endless string of scandals the past decade, and by all appearances poised to survive the Watson and Commander situations, Roger Goodell appears bulletproof. What would have to occur for owners to force him out, or is he locked in until he chooses to retire? I think he's locked in until he chooses to retire. I really do. I think the owners, above all else, appreciate the fact that they have someone who is very adept at taking all of the heat that otherwise would be directed to them. That's one of the ways he earns his money. And we've seen it time and again. He does it well at press conferences. He did it pretty damn well a month ago today before Congress. Non-answers, words, nothing really admitted that causes any problems for anyone. And then you move on to the next question. And you find a way to ever say the thing that you're being pressed to say. It's a skill. It's an art. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's there until he decides to walk away. The challenge, though, is this, and there's been some reporting on this. Who's next? And I think, this is my opinion, I think Roger Goodell has been very keen on making sure that there's never an internal threat to the throne. And I think that's one of the reasons why anytime somebody begins to bubble up and you start hearing, oh, that could be a future commissioner. That person ends up leaving. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's happened like 3 or 4 times. So at some point, and this may be in the next Goodell contract, a mandate to develop his successor, a requirement that you're going to embrace the person that comes next. And at some point, you just have to do it. We're all going to die. Newsflash. We're not going to do the thing that we do that we think we're so good at and we're irreplaceable. We're all replaceable. And the game will just keep going. You take out anyone who's connected to it in any way, shape, or form right now. They drop dead right now. The game will keep going. Whoever it is, I'm not going to name names because then, that's the ultimate jinx to put on someone, linking them to death. Any person connected to the NFL, if they, let's not say die, if they just choose to walk away right now, if they wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm done with this shit. Sorry. The train keeps rolling. We see it every year. Player gets injured. Big name player out for the year. Train keeps rolling. Commissioner leaves. They change the name on the football. Train keeps rolling. He needs to understand that. At some point, the train is going to keep rolling without him. Now, I don't want to be too cynical here and suggest that now, I'm not even going to say that he wants to make sure that his successor does a bad job so his legacy is even better. Almost like what a president would do. I want the next guy to screw up so I look like I was better than this person. I don't want my successor to do a better job than me. I'm not going to suggest that anyone is that shallow or petty, so I won't say that. And I didn't say that. My point is that I won't. I just want to be clear. I won't say that. I did not say that. Let's see what else we have here. Ryan Dupree, who decides what a player's position is actually labeled? Seems important when you look at franchise tag, value difference between tight end receiver. Didn't Jimmy Graham challenge it at some point? It was 9 years ago. And the CBA says that your position for tag purposes is the one at which you took the most snaps the prior year. And Graham's argument was he lined up in the slot more than he lined up tight to the tackle. Therefore, he was a receiver, not a tight end. And there was an arbitration. There was a fight. At the end of the day, the NFL and the Saints won that argument because the arbitrator basically found, well, those times that you line up in the slot, you're still a tight end, basically. That fight has come up with the distinction between linebacker and defensive end because the linebacker tag, the outside linebacker tag is less than the defensive end tag. So teams will tag a pass rusher as an OLB when he's really a DE. That's happened in the past. I think it happened with Terrell Suggs. It's happened recently with someone else. So it's driven by where you line up, but it's ultimately determined by an arbitration process. Tom Marshall, Arizona, UK. Can Russell Wilson continue the quarterback trend and go on to win a Super Bowl this year with a new team? Well, we saw it with Tom Brady, goes to Tampa Bay and wins a Super Bowl the first year. We saw it with Matthew Stafford, goes to LA and wins a Super Bowl the first year. This is a great litmus test for both teams, Seahawks and the Rams. Because I think the Seahawks believe they can still be successful without Russell Wilson. Plug in Geno Smith into the system. They didn't build the offense around Russell Wilson. They tried in 2000. There was that let Russ cook stuff for a while. The defense has caught up with it. I think the Seahawks believe at the end of the day that Russell Wilson ultimately isn't good enough. I'm not saying I believe it. I think the Seahawks ultimately believed he wasn't good enough to be a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, build everything around the quarterback. They're still putting the quarterback into the system. They may be wrong. We're going to find out because the Broncos are clearly building everything around Russell Wilson. And, you know, every time I say this or tweet this, I get the geniuses out there who say every offense is built around a quarterback. It's not. It's not. There are certain teams that have systems, and the quarterback is the guy who runs the system. Other teams, the quarterback is the system. In Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is the system. In Pittsburgh, whoever wins that job is part of the system. Jalen Hurts, part of the system. Tua, part of the system. There are some quarterbacks, and I don't want to do an exhaustive list here, but Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, they are the system. Matthew Stafford's not the system. He fits the system better than Jared Goff did, obviously. But the quarterbacks, especially the ones who can move around, the ones who can make chicken salad on the fly, when the play that's called fails, they can call and run a second play with their athleticism, their awareness, all of those great attributes, and turn what should have been a sack or an incompletion into a positive. Those are the best of the best. And those are the ones where basically the offense is go do your thing. And our plays are going to be drawn up with the understanding that ultimately you're just going out there and doing your thing. That's what the Broncos are going to do with Russell Wilson. The Seahawks refuse to do it. If the Broncos can pull it off, we'll see. But I still don't know what to think about the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders because they're in that division with the Chiefs. Somebody's finishing in fourth place. Somebody's probably not making it to the playoffs. And all four of those teams good enough to win other divisions in the NFL. All right, let's see what else we have here. Looking for a good one to wrap it up with. There's a lot here. We got a lot of thank you for coming back. We missed you. We appreciate it. And I've had so many emails in recent days. People who are anxious for us to come back. The routine's been disrupted. I get it, and I appreciate it. And look, this isn't BS. Again, I'm not going to BS you. Some days you're rolling out of bed at 6:30 or whatever. Yeah, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I've gone through that existential thing earlier this year. Like, what am I really adding to society? But when I hear from people that we are part of their way to just ignore all the crap, part of their routine, part of what makes them feel comfortable and familiar, that means a lot to us. And we're glad to be part of that. So we're glad to be coming back. All right. Tommy Caruso, have you confirmed Sims is still alive and ready for Monday? Is he pissed he has to work on a Monday? I haven't. I try to let him have his time. You know, it's like because we communicate so much when we're on. We're not joined at the hip when we're off. Like, I don't want to drive him crazy. I check in with him from time to time, but I think he's doing well, and I think he's ready to go. Ryan Dupree, since the funding rule seems to hurt both the PA and the owners, why don't both sides agree to do away with it? But it doesn't hurt the owners. It helps the owners. It allows them to hide behind it, to say we're not going to do fully guaranteed contracts for the next 5 years. See, if the Cardinals had done 5 years fully guaranteed, 7 years fully guaranteed, really, if you add it to the 2 years that he had left, if they did that, they're taking the risk that this guy at some point in the next 7 years is going to get injured to the point where he can't play, or he's going to have an accumulation of enough small injuries that all of a sudden he's not the same guy. And they still have to pay him. I think the owners don't want to do fully guaranteed contracts for veterans well into the future. The funding rule gives them a way to avoid it. The irony of the funding rule is it started as a protection for the players, and now it's something that gets used against the players. And I don't see the league giving it up easily. And again, the union in any negotiation with the league could get rid of it if it wants to. All right, let's see what else we have here. How long does it take Sims to come back from the haze after summer vacation? I don't think he ever exits the haze. Christian Zimmerman wants to know if the new Vikings regime will turn Kellen Mond into a starting quarterback. They are all in with Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins, early 30s, this is year 11 for him. He's still got a lot of football left. If it works out, he'll be the guy for several years to come. And Kellen Mond ends up being a wasted draft pick. He's a round 3 version of Jordan Love, where they drafted Kellen Mond at a time when they weren't really sure what the future was going to be with Kirk Cousins. The coach at the time didn't like Kirk Cousins. Little did they know that the coach didn't like Kellen Mond either. I don't think Mike Zimmer likes anyone, frankly. So I don't think that Kellen Mond's future is going to be in Minnesota. I think Mond is destined to end up somewhere else in due course. That's just my gut feeling at this point. All right, let's call it right there. That's long enough. Almost an hour for the last edition of PFTOT before we return for 2 hours on Monday with PFT Live. Check us out all weekend long at profootballtalk.com and get ready for the possibility of PFT double OT at some point on Friday afternoon if Judge Sue L. Robinson, we're getting close to noon, at some point between noon and 5 Eastern, does she drop the Deshaun Watson ruling? If she does, we'll read it, we'll digest it, and we'll be back here to explain it. Otherwise, see you Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern for PFT Live. Thanks as always for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.